Last episode, we explored the illusion of time. We saw how consciousness moves through endless, frozen moments, and how what we perceive as time is actually a reflection of consciousness shifting through frequencies. This understanding naturally leads us to today's topic: channeling. Because once we realize that time is not fixed, then the idea of receiving information from another point in space or from another layer of consciousness suddenly it doesn't sound so strange. And what if I told you that you've been channeling your whole life, you just haven't realized it? What is channeling? Most people, when they hear the word channeling, shy away from it. Gently, cautiously, they often imagine someone going into a trance, speaking with a different voice from the beyond, or claiming to receive messages from other beings. You know, like, I heard this and that, so everything I say is true.
Yes.
That's a form of channeling. Edgar Cayce is among the most famous modern channelers. They call him the sleeping prophet because in a sleep state, he enters the informational field and gives answers that astonish both doctors and mystics. But this, my friends, is just one polarity, as always. Channeling is fundamentally not a drama or performance. It is not reserved for the few, the gifted, or those who carry the label of psychics or mediums. Channeling is a natural ability that each one of us possesses. As long as you exist in this world, you possess this ability. And that's how it should be, and it's only a matter of time before it's understood. That's why, from this perspective, I'm very grateful that you wish for this kind of shows which reflect on our world, come to us as an idea, and then we get inspired to make them. It's a mutual process. And if you haven't sent out, I hope by now this is clear, if you haven't sent out this impulse so far, even if you don't have the specific form, this show wouldn't have been created at all, because we are all connected in a much more global and at times incomprehensible network. Channeling is simply the process of receiving information beyond the usual filters of consciousness. That's how you can remember it. It doesn't sound that scary, does it? Allowing a stream of information to pass through our consciousness. Look, if we realize we are primarily energy and information, exchanging becomes simple, not strange or complicated. It can take many forms. You don't have to sit with your eyes half closed and speak in a deep voice. It can be a feeling that saves you from danger. Now I'm going to tell you a story. One time, a girl had made an appointment for a meeting, and in the middle of the conversation, when she relaxed, she started telling how she had lived in France and she and her roommate had a very good relationship. Everything was fine. Until at one point she just lost her mind. One night it was very late and she just wanted to go outside. She couldn't stay at home. At home it was cozy, pleasant, it's cold outside. What are you going to do at night, especially? Something dangerous could happen at night. However, she couldn't let go of that thought and kept telling her friend, and finally her friend said, "Fine, if you want it so much, let's go out, just to see what will happen." Did they leave the apartment for no more than a 15-minute walk? They came back. The building was on fire. Their apartment, almost to ashes. If they hadn't left 15 minutes earlier, they would already be on the other side, to put it mildly. In other words, when something is very aggressive, when our intuition is really knocking, but with
the big beams on our mental door, boom, 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 boom.
Let's listen to it, because besides being life-saving for us, it can also be life-saving for our loved ones and those around us. And this story about the girl and the burning apartment, I wrote it down to tell you because I myself didn't expect I didn't expect it this much, but there are many manifestations. These hints and these signs from ourselves, from a broader perspective, they are constant. And it's our responsibility to remind ourselves daily about this permission to accept more and more frequencies, and in this way to develop our sensitivity, just like animals and pets who hear much more than we do, to try to hear these frequencies and to tune in, because a lot of things are happening around us. You might suddenly be struck by an insight while taking a walk, and that's possible. It often happens to me in the shower. I get ideas, a dream that gives you a solution to a certain problem, a sentence you write without thinking, but somehow you know it's true, a moment when you just know. All of these are forms of channeling. Dr. Hélène Labe, Director of Research at the Institute of Noetic Sciences, defines channeling as a process of revealing information and energy that are not limited by our conventional notions of space and time. According to her research, almost 90% of people have had at least one channeling experience in their lives, and most of them didn't even call it that. In other words, channeling is not rare, it's common and it's personal. Each of us has what they call a noetic signature, a unique way to access non-local consciousness. For some, it may happen through writing, for others through music, healing, or even silence. There is no hierarchy of values, just as there is no hierarchy in the universe. The fact that we insist on having one is a different matter. Just like fingerprints, every signature is different. To understand how channeling works, we need to look beyond the physical body and into the fundamental nature of reality. As mentioned, all is energy and vibration. Everything is information. Atoms are not solid, they are fields of probability. Quantum physics has shown us that particles do not exist in one place until they are observed. This observation, or in other words, focus, is what turns potential into form, energy into matter. This is not philosophy, this is physics. And it turns out that the same principle applies to channeling as well. When someone is channeling, they focus their consciousness on a specific frequency of information. This is supported by numerous fields of scientific research. In experiments with direct mental interaction with living systems, scientists have found that when one person sends focused intention to another, the recipient's body responds. Changes in heart rate have been recorded, skin conductivity and brainwave activity. The whole body starts to react and tremble. It starts to feel either warmer, or you feel sparks, tingling, coldness, changes in temperature, and in many other ways. Studies of the random number generator show that a person's focused attention can subtly influence computer-generated data that should be completely random. Over time, the results are clear. Consciousness affects physical matter. Jessica Utz, a professor of statistics and former president of the American Statistical Association, compares the magnitude of these effects to major medical research. She finds that the statistical strength of psychic phenomena, such as premonition and, as we said, telepathy, is actually greater than that of aspirin preventing heart attacks. And it goes even deeper. According to Lakpe and other researchers, people who believe in channeling and who are open to it tend to experience it more often. In other words, belief or acceptance shapes access. Permission. This supports what many spiritual teachers have long told us. Intention and openness are key. And so, how does it work? The main idea is clear. Channeling happens when the filters of the physical mind are blurred or calmed. When we are focused, present, and open, we allow a different layer of consciousness, whether it is internal, collective, or interdimensional, to come through. And in those moments, something broader speaks, not always with words, often with images, with symbols, sensations, or direct knowing. Yes, exactly. That's something that also isn't understood. Receiving information isn't always in the form of images. It can simply happen suddenly, as if out of nowhere, you just know something absolutely, firmly, and infallibly. Who are we connecting with? You will ask. With just about everyone. When information that flows through us, whether in dreams, inspiration, or meditation, always has a source. A receiver needs a transmitter. Who are we connecting with? Well, it's more accurate to ask what kind of connection we are creating and what image and reflection we are receiving, because at our core, we are the ones who create everything around us. And what we see both in the physical and in the energetic world are reflections of our consciousness, our choices, and our areas of exploration. That is, even your contact with extraterrestrials, your communication with your higher self, or your encounter with the source. Is your idea about this and a reflection of what you radiate. Basically, Carl Jung calls these forms archetypes of consciousness, but the idea is very similar. Sometimes you may receive information from something or someone, but it may not be in its natural form, and instead take the form of one of your archetypes from your environment, which you yourself will accept more clearly and easily so that you can understand the message from the cosmos. So keep in mind that all forms are changeable, and if something scares you or feels frightening during a channeling or meditation session, you always have the free will to change the form. Or, to put it simply, change your form, man, because this way it's not very pleasant for me to communicate, and suddenly it will turn into a fluffy bunny. Jokes aside, give it a try. Let's start with one of the most famous ideas, your higher self. Personally, I avoid using the term higher self because people are too used to the idea of levels and separation, and that immediately creates the illusion that there is something higher than us and that we have somewhere to reach or something to elevate to. Listen to me. This is not a separate being or some external force. This is still you, with a broader range that doesn't fit in this box. This is your version that exists beyond the limits of limitations, beyond fears, beyond worries, beyond despair, beyond sadness, beyond disbelief. Here, the concept of collective consciousness also comes into play. Think of it as an ocean of knowledge to which all individual minds are connected. Carl Jung. Collective unconscious, a shared reservoir of symbols, memories, and archetypes. Rupert Sheldrake's theory of morphic resonance adds that fields of memory exist across time and within species. When someone channels from this layer, they often receive wisdom that goes beyond their personal experience, universal truths, visions, or even scientific or historical information they had no prior knowledge of. Then there are beings of the guide type, which, let me emphasize again, is still you. You're just manifesting something in a form that can teach you, to challenge you with something you would otherwise miss. Take Jesus or Joshua as an example, since it always works. You will manifest your own version of Jesus, but it has nothing to do with the Jesus of Jesus. In many traditions, these are benevolent beings who support us throughout our lives, sometimes known, sometimes hidden. Some people experience them as ancestors, others as an angelic presence or abstract forces of love and wisdom. These guides often appear in a state of meditation and can offer gentle guidance, reassurance, or teaching. Subscribe. Extraterrestrial beings are also often channeled. Among the most frequently mentioned are the Pleiadians, Sirians, and Arcturians, names that appear in hundreds of independent stories around the world. Although mainstream science does not confirm these civilizations, figures like Barbara Marciniak, Lee Carl, and Daryl Anka have been channeling the teachings of these other races for decades. These messages often focus on the evolution of humanity, free will, creating one's own reality, multidimensionality, and the power of choice. Channeling is not limited to cosmic sources. Many people report profound connections with nature spirits, elemental beings, or even animals. Local traditions have always honored the intelligence of the natural world, not metaphorically, but literally. The trees, the rivers, and the animals are regarded as conscious, sensitive, and communicative. Today, animal communicators and energy-sensitive people report emotional and telepathic exchanges with both their pets and wild animals. These forms of channeling are more emotional, sensory, and empathic rather than verbal or structured. Even a hunter, take that as an example, a hunter also connects eye to eye with the animal he has targeted and forever remembers how he looked at it. Most importantly, it's about understanding the law of vibration. Like attracts, like you can't see or experience what you want to experience if you're not already tuned to that frequency. Frequencies like love, gratitude, curiosity, and joy open us up to broader forms of intelligence. On the other hand, since everything exists with its own polarity, fear, confusion, self-doubt in the information often block or distort the flow of information. It's very important to say that just because the message has arrived, it doesn't automatically mean it's pure. This is where our work with our filtration comes in. With the easiest understanding, pure messages will never violate your free will. They will never make you do something if you haven't wished for it. They will never pressure you. They might challenge you, but the final decision always remains with you. That's how you can tell. When you act out of fear, you channel the fear, you amplify it, you spread it. When you speak out of disappointment, you channel the disappointment. And when you move with inspiration, clarity, or love, you channel all of that. Channeling is not about who is speaking through you, but about what frequency you are tuned to. Because everything is energy, everything is information. To understand how channeling works, it will be helpful to look at what actually happens in the body, especially in the brain during these states. We already saw in the episode about the pineal gland that it plays a huge central role in regulating the flow between matter and energy. Located in the center of the brain and often called the third eye, the pineal gland is activated when external stimulation is reduced, such as during sleep, deep meditation, or changes in the state of consciousness. During these times, it releases melatonin and in some cases, DMT, a naturally occurring compound that causes vivid, often non-linear experiences of time, space, and identity, the so-called trips in English, or journeys. Channeling is not that different from other states, like meditation, out-of-body experiences, or regression. All of them involve a shift in awareness from the thinking mind to a more expanded state. And that's exactly why, for some people, regression doesn't work as well as channeling, or channeling doesn't work as well as lucid dreaming and recording the messages and codes from my dreams. Because by writing them down, I can use Edgar Cayce's method, thanks to the fact that I remember my dreams in great detail and learn to interpret them, and in this way help others as well, not just keep them to myself and wonder, well, I have some strange dreams. You have strange dreams because you haven't decided to get to know them? During this change, the activity of brainwaves changes drastically. One of the most consistent observed patterns is the increase in theta and gamma wave activity. Theta waves, 4 to 8 Hz, are associated with deep relaxation, dreaming, and the border between wakefulness and sleep. This is the same state that is reached during a session of deep meditation and regression. During channeling, these theta patterns often appear in a stable, coherent rhythm, suggesting that the mind is deeply relaxed but highly receptive, ready to receive but not pushing. At the same time, there is often a spike in gamma wave activity, 30 to 100 Hz. Gamma waves are associated with focus, insight, and moments of deep clarity. When someone enters a state of full-body trance or receives deep streams of information during channeling, gamma activity tends to increase, sometimes far beyond what is observed in typical consciousness. One of the most interesting findings from laboratory research is the suppression of the prefrontal cortex, the area of the brain responsible for analytical thinking, decision-making, and the sense of self. When this area quiets down, so to speak, as seen in both electroencephalogram and functional magnetic resonance imaging scans, the inner monologue of the physical mind fades and it makes room for other sources of knowledge. This is sometimes referred to in science as transient hypofrontality, and it allows the individual to receive and transmit information without interference from doubt or overthinking, or filtering driven by the ego. At the Institute of Noetic Sciences, Dr. Lakpe conducts controlled studies, observing contactees under laboratory conditions. Her team has documented recurring patterns of brainwave changes. In one study, all participants showed decreased activity in a set of brain regions that are usually active when we think about ourselves, about our physical selves. They concluded that channeling involves shifting from personal identity to a more universal field of information. Well, what is this more universal field of information and where does their consciousness go? Similar findings appear in research from Harvard Medical School, where studies on advanced meditators reveal brain states remarkably similar to those of experienced channelers. Both groups show synchronized hemispheres, increased gamma coherence, and reduced beta activity, which is associated with stress and linear thinking. The body becomes still, the brain becomes coherent, and the pineal gland becomes active. In this state of alignment, information from broader fields of intelligence can be received not through the senses, but through resonance. The body acts as an antenna, the mind as a translator. So, from a biological point of view, channeling is a neurological, hormonal, and energetic event. And although it may seem mystical, it follows a precise and measurable pattern that science is only now beginning to understand. I am sending you an invitation to remember. You don't need to leave your body to channel. So far, we've learned that channeling is not a supernatural gift, but a natural state of consciousness available to everyone. But there is a perspective that helps to redefine the whole idea of channeling. And it comes from Bashar, who has been channeled for more than 40 years by Darryl Anka. Darryl's journey began without mysticism. He was working in the film industry in Los Angeles in the 70s when he first had 2 close encounters with triangular UFOs. These sightings prompted him to start investigating whether all of this was really possible and not just his imagination. That's how he took a channeling course. During one of the lessons, he experienced what he describes as a telepathic download. Suddenly, he remembered a pre-made agreement with a being named Bashar to start this work on Earth. What makes Bashar's perspective different is how he himself describes the mechanism of channeling. According to Bashar, we shift our frequency to match the vibration of the consciousness we wish to connect with. Bashar compares it to a radio. All stations are broadcasting. Like on television, all the channels already exist. You don't create music by turning the dial. You simply tune in to the frequency of the station that's already there. It's already being broadcast. We just need to tune in. And the clearer your vibration is, the clearer the signal. That means that channeling is not something that happens to you. It's something you allow to happen by choosing a frequency through acceptance and allowance. This is directly related to the idea of quantum physics and the observer effect, the idea that observation changes the state of the system. In quantum mechanics, particles exist as probabilities and may or may not be present until they are observed. The very act, the choice to focus on something, to pay attention to it, collapses the possibilities, and it's as if they collapse and the wave becomes a particle. Bashar elaborates, you are not observing reality, you are creating it through the frequency you choose to be in. In other words, our state of being, our frequency, our beliefs, and our focus determine what information we are able to perceive. This is the foundation. Daryl's ability to connect with Bashar comes not from special training or unique talent, but from being in the right vibrational state. Of course, 40 years is a lot of training sessions, but at its core, he is vibrationally aligned. And through that alignment, he begins to tune into a frequency where the consciousness of Bashar exists. Bashar has spoken on countless topics, from systems of emotions and beliefs to contact with extraterrestrials and advanced physics. Although some ideas may seem abstract, many of his core teachings are in alignment with current discoveries in neuroscience, quantum theory, and vibrational medicine. He emphasizes that all reality is made up of energy and that we change our experience of reality by changing the state we are in. For example, Bashar teaches that if you want to receive information from a higher dimensional intelligence, you first need to become vibrationally aligned with it. This is not just about meditation or calmness. It's about aligning your frequency with what you want to know, with the being or energy you wish to connect with. If your mind is full of fear, doubt about whether this will even happen, chaos, and says that, well, it's all nice, but it's not going to work. Sounds good, but it's not possible. This is only for the chosen ones and those who are already involved in this. I still have a long way to go. Subscribe. It honestly takes a lot of time, bro. Well, you are programming your cells. You're also entering a reality that confirms that's how it is. Well, you are programming all your cells to vibrate in that way. You realize that, right? And you enter a reality that exists, in which it is said, yes, that's right, you can't. So why are you surprised later? Well, you did it yourselves. If you believe anything is possible, let me connect with what is most necessary for me and for everyone else. I am open to all possibilities and I accept the information that passes through me, because it is me and I am it. I explore the unknown with curiosity and excitement. I accept. It sounds a little different, doesn't it? That's already a different vibrational alignment and something anyone can practice. Every time you feel inspired, joyful, focused, or deeply curious, you are tuning in. This is also the beginning of channeling. In the next episode, we will go deeper into the nature of parallel realities and how our daily choices of thoughts and emotions move us through endless versions of Earth. But for now, the most important thing is, I ask you to remember the following. Your vibration is your permission. This is the way you say yes to a certain reality, to certain information, to a specific version of yourself. While the idea of channeling may sound modern or even futuristic, its roots are deep. In different cultures and centuries, people have connected with something greater than the logical mind, whether they called it divine inspiration, spiritual guidance, or higher intelligence. In recent history, several individuals have brought this ability into the public sphere, not as mystics hiding in the shadows, but as open contactees dedicated to sharing practical messages for human growth. As already mentioned, one of the most respected examples is Edgar Cayce, often called the Sleeping Prophet. Active in the early 20th century, Cayce would lie down, enter a deep trance, and answer questions about health, past reincarnations, consciousness, and even the future. Remarkably, he had no memory of what he said during these sessions, yet thousands of detailed readings were recorded and archived by the Association for Research and Enlightenment. His medical insights helped countless people, often long before science caught up to confirm them. In the 1960s and 1970s, Jane Roberts introduced a new voice, Seth, a non-physical entity who dictated entire books through Jane while she entered a light trance. Together they created works like Seth Speaks and The Nature of Personal Reality, which introduced powerful concepts such as you create your own reality long before these ideas became mainstream. Seth's teachings emphasize the creative power of thought and emotions, and they continue to influence spiritual psychology and consciousness research to this day. In the 1990s, Barbara Marciniak published Bringers of the Dawn, a book channeled from a group of beings known as the Pleiadians. Unlike traditional religious teachings, these messages speak in a direct energetic language, calling on humanity to awaken, to question inherited systems, and to remember its galactic origins. Drunvalo Melchizedek discusses his link to the ancient being Thoth, king priest from Atlantis and the author of the Emerald Tablets. Through their interaction, Drunvalo develops the ancient secret of the flower of life. These are a collection of knowledge connecting sacred geometry, human evolution, and the science of consciousness. Although controversial for some, the impact of his work has sparked global interest in the merging of spirituality with quantum understanding. Let's continue. In 1999, something called the Crimson Circle begins. It happens when a being named Tobias begins to speak through a person named Jeffrey Hope. Over time, another being starts to appear in these messages, Adamus Saint-Germain, who becomes the main guide. They organize meetings called shuds, where people from all over the world come seeking answers. The way of speaking in these messages is playful, sometimes poetic and bold, aiming to help people remember who they truly are and free themselves from the old ways, dogmas and limits. Cryon is a spiritual being who began to speak through Lee Carl as early as 1989. In his messages, Cryon talks about the energy of the earth, its evolution, and the deep essence of the human soul. What makes Cryon more famous is the fact that he has been invited several times to present these messages in the United Nations building. The sessions have been part of a special program for spiritual development. This shows that channeling has long ceased to be considered a strange topic and is beginning to be taken more seriously even in official circles. Steve Rotter is another person who receives spiritual messages. He began to channel beings who call themselves the Group. This began in 1996 after a powerful personal experience. The Group shares wisdom about change, about the energy of the new era, and about how to remember our true essence. Their messages are positive, clear, supportive, and humorous, aiming to inspire people to live with more awareness and love. Steve and the Group are well known in global spiritual circles, with thousands of followers and involvement in international events. Of course, Jerry and especially Esther Hicks convey a message from a being we know as Abraham. This is a group of non-physical consciousness. The main theme is the law of attraction, the idea that we create our reality through our thoughts and feelings. These messages become world famous and help millions of people take responsibility for their own lives. We keep saying that there weren't many such books or people discussing these topics back then. In the end, what matters is that all these figures, despite the diversity of voices, styles, and ideas, share one thing. They have access to what all of us have access to. They didn't start out as saints or as superhumans. They're also people with doubts, fears, and questions who gradually learn to calm their minds, to trust the information in order to convey something greater than themselves. They don't encounter anything extraordinary. This is a version of the same field that surrounds each and every one of you. The only difference is in the trust, acceptance, and allowance that everything is truly possible and happens simultaneously. Do you understand? This is really accessible to every one of us. Of course, no less important is the idea of why we do it. It's actually a fundamental idea. Well, why do we need to learn to do it? Why do we need channeling? Starting tomorrow, we can do it and connect with anyone. Why do we need it? To benefit ourselves, or to give more people the chance to discover themselves. Think about that. I understand the personal curiosity. In the beginning, it's really very curious just to see, how it will happen. Will it happen? Will I see something? Will I hear something? That's how it is. After curiosity comes responsibility. By responsibility, don't think of something weighing on your shoulders, but the definition of the word, which means to carry an answer. In other words, to take the initiative with love, joy, and enthusiasm, to carry answers through what I am. The purpose of highlighting these individuals I mentioned is not to put them on a pedestal as gurus or some kind of special people. This is to remind ourselves that channeling is not about spectacle and performance. On the contrary, it's about the message. It's about energy, about transformation, and most importantly, the realization that this potential lives in each and every one of us. Because there is nothing outside the whole. Do you understand? No matter what we insist on calling it in practice, the whole, it doesn't care. Because whatever definition we use, it will still be part of that whole, and it will be a reflection of the whole. And in that sense, it will be correct, and it will be valid. Whatever we call it, it will still be correct because it's still a part of it. Do you understand? It's the entire mind. The world is mental, and everything is connected in unity, but also that every path is correct. Every choice is the right choice at the right moment. From eternity, your choice to allow this information and yes, manifest this episode is an exceptional step forward for all of us. And now it's time for channeling too. Relax and allow yourself to do it with openness, effortlessly, and with trust. Before we begin, remember, the silence is the door. Silence isn't emptiness. It is access. Your body is a tuner. You don't set a frequency. You align yourself with it. Channeling is permission. Letting go, acceptance, to allow it to speak through you. So, take a deep breath with your belly. Hold it. Exhale. And again, Take a breath. Hold it. Exhale. And again, take a breath. Hold it. Exhale. Imagine a brightly glowing plasma sphere, about 40 centimeters above the head. It's just like the sun. It pulses, it spins. It bursts. Information and probabilities. Do you see the sphere? If you can't see it, let yourself feel it. Right at this moment, invite it to enter you. And let it start moving up and down from your head to your toes and back. Up, down. Up, down, up, down, up, down. Speed up this process, up, down, up, down. The faster you move the sphere, the more it starts to disappear. At some point, you only see a blurred beam of light. Move quickly. You'll see it up and down, up and down, up and down. That beam of light is your information and your access to today's channeling. When you are ready, expand this beam out of you, take it out of your body, and surround yourself with it. This ray suddenly turns into a tube. If you look down, you'll see that this tube has no end and goes somewhere into eternity. If you look up, you will see exactly the same picture. As above, so below. You are infinite beings. And it's time to get in the elevator of knowledge, to get what you radiate. Right now you're in a glowing elevator, which vibrates and pulses. This elevator is your personal carrier to information. When you're ready, relax and leave the elevator to take you there, wherever you want. He will pull you up. Let him handle it. There's nothing to fear. If you see buttons, choose any of them and just allow yourself to reach that floor. Many minds and entities surround you, and those who are ready to allow this consciousness, they can do it. If you feel that you need to change how you speak and express yourself, do it. If you feel your hands starting to tremble, that's completely normal. If you feel a melody, you can sing it. All of this is allowed because you are everything. Allow yourself to find those tingles and frequencies that will show up in your instrument, which encourages you to allow more and more knowledge. Whatever is before and around you, allow it and begin to accept. Imagine you're driving a car. What you see is standing on the front seat next to you while you're driving. You're driving forward into infinity. When you're ready, let yourself release control. And to switch roles, sit in the front seat next to the driver and leave it. Allow yourself to be given a ride. From this moment onwards, you already are in channeling. Condense this information and store it deep down, ready to share it with those who need it right at this moment from eternity. Remember this state. This is also you, although in a slightly different form. Be grateful for what is around you, for everything, and for yourself. And when you're ready, come back here to Earth. It's my pleasure. See you in a moment.